This coach used to average around $1,000 per month for about 18 months. They're putting a lot of effort into their content strategy. They posted consistently. They modeled other coaches' content. They looked at the trends and they tried to get traffic and visibility onto their profile. Yet they got very few inquiries. Nowhere near enough to give them the confidence that this is something they could do full time. Because if they left their job and the security of that, they wanted to replace the income, if not more, and have it predictably coming through every single month. Well, now he averages around $11,000 per month, and he's averaged that for the last 18 months. He's never gone below 10,000. Some months we've exceeded 16,000. So 10xing the income is possible once he changed a few things. And in this video, I want to retrace our steps and cover, I think, the core thing of what we changed and why we changed it. Because if your income has been sitting at the same number for longer than it should, what was holding Adam back will almost certainly be the same in your circumstance. And if you do want to do what Adam did, there's a free advice form in my bio. When he first contacted me, he reached out on that and I gave him some feedback. So if you want to know the specific steps and strategies that I would do in your exact circumstance right now, you could fill that in and I'll come back to you personally. But getting into this, the first thing I got to draw attention to was just the lack of coherence in his content, because he was posting about loads of different topics and it was so disparate that it was never going to attract attention long enough. Not only to attract attention for people coming in, but maintaining attention on people by referencing the same problems over and over again, so that person would maintain focus and then be convinced to inquire. And at the time I told him this analogy, I was like, if you're a sadistic child and you want to set fire to something with a magnifying glass, if you're outside, you're focusing the sun's rays with a magnifying glass. If you keep moving it willy-nilly about, it's never going to stay on the same point and be hot enough to spark a flame. But if you've got a bunch of leaves and you got beaming sunshine and you hold that magnifying glass still for long enough, it will ignite, because it's the precision of like channeling the sun's rays being pain in the market, problems in the market, the magnifying glass being the content being in front of them, and the patch of leaves being the action threshold that person needs to do something about it. If you keep moving it about, then you're never going to start that fire, you're never going to get that inquiry. So it was making him aware that he needs to constrain his content around a set specific bits of topics. A lot of coaches, I think this is probably the core element of it, because they're building a business on thin air. And most coaches are probably operating, they're probably showing before and afters at this level. And they're probably covering problems and covering topics again at this level. And if it's not built on the fundamental foundations of understanding who you help, it's all worthless. It all doesn't go anywhere. And people, it's not jazzy, it's not fantastic, it's not overwhelming, it's not a silver bullet strategy, but it works. It's understanding the psychology of who you help. Because people talk about niching. It's not niching down to exclude, it's niching down to stand out. It's niching down for your content to make enough impact on someone to convince them that you can help them. And this is it, because if you're following Adam's initial idea of just covering topics or trying to model what works, you don't know their strategy, you don't know their audience, you don't know their skill, or you don't know what they are specializing in. And if you're trying to model what they've got and then model what they've got and what they've got, it's a lack of coherence and it's a complete lack of clarity on what you do and how you operate. So when people just look at you, they don't recognize what you're about. And if they don't recognize it within 2 seconds, then that lack of clarity will kill you, because they just will scroll on, they won't pay attention. And if it's not obvious and doesn't hit them on the face that you can specifically speak and help them and speak to them, that person, then you're not going to get people clicking through, you're not going to get people inquiring. So it's so overlooked, but clarity in being upfront with who you are and what you do will massively influence people inquiring, more so than the fact that you've maintained attention by fancy editing skills, or the fact that you use good lighting, or the fact that your content looks fantastic, or you're using reels at this time rather than carousels. It's not about the format, it's not about what you do up here. What's more important is the fundamental foundations of understanding where the pain is and what really drives that person. And in order to do this with Adam's circumstance, I took him on a task called the problem path. And that's all about understanding your service as a journey. It's not just helping everyone. What you're trying to do is take one person from A to B. Who is that person? What journey do you excel at? What do you really enjoy? And I'm not talking about, I said this to Adam, it's not about, oh, I love clients who pay me in time. Oh, I love clients who do the work. We all do. But what journey and what element of your process do you really enjoy? What journey, if you're taking someone, is it taking someone from 20 stone to 15 stone? Is it someone who's never stepped inside a gym before? You love helping that person with their diet? Is it taking people to stage? Do you love the prep process? What process do you actually love and you're actually good at? Because once you have that, what does 2 years look like? What's the end point? And work backwards for 2 years. And that's where you find out what your content strategy should be based around, because it should be around the initial points. And this is what gave Adam insane clarity on what to talk about. So he never had to kind of have mental burnout thinking of what to post, thinking and sitting on the day just like, he always knew what to talk about. And I was so pedantic about being ruthlessly consistent about that, because you were in someone's mind for less than 10 seconds a day. There are millions of other thoughts they're probably thinking. The fact that you repeat yourself is important because you get that recognition and it starts to impart another, it starts to set their memory and set their intent and their understanding of who you are and what you own and what you're about. Because again, having the understanding of what they're thinking about as well, what problems they're fixating on, that's going to naturally grab attention more. So at the front end, you'll be able to convert and get more followers or get more people looking at you by referencing what they're thinking about or what the problems they want to fix at the beginning of the process. And then once you dig into the thoughts, behaviors and emotions and you look at the understanding of that person's reality, because that's it. If you know what they're thinking, if you know how that then makes them feel and what they feel, they typically act on, you can understand exactly what's going on in their life. So I got Adam to audit and talk to his clients to get real life examples, and then we fed that back into the content to kind of really augment. When he talked about his problems, how it felt, what people were going through. When he was showing off his client results, he referenced the reality of what they were at the beginning, what they're like now. So when people were watching, it felt like he was speaking directly to them. And then when you can speak their reality, or when you can explain someone in more detail than they understand themselves, that's what convinces someone that you can help them. Most people want to feel acknowledged and understood before they want the solution. So this is what the role of content was. And we massively made a huge shift in his content strategy. We were very consistent with that. And that definitely helped draw in more attention and definitely more inquiries initially. And then what we needed to do is we need to package his service into a process, because most coaches look like every other coach and blend into the background. And the key for this was, if people don't think you offer anything different, and they've tried what they think you offer, because if you don't fill in the gap, their shit imagination will for you. And that's a problem, because they will immediately go, tried that, didn't work, you're disregarded, next. Or they'll look at the results that you've got and they'll go, oh, it's easy for them because they don't do night shifts, they don't have kids, they don't have 5 legs, there's some reason why they're better than me, they're on a pedestal. So you just let their own bullshit get in their own way. Whereas if you show a process which looks unique, or it's how you do something and there's stages and it looks different to what they imagined, it makes it clear that they haven't tried everything. And a big part of this is drawing it back to a consistent solution. And Adam's actually really excelled at this recently, because his audience right now is under 4,000. He's not got a massive exposure. He gets consistent inquiries. He's now got a team. He's got Jack and Naomi as coaches under him. So he's building out a team. The lead flow is substantial. Gets multiple referrals, multiple inquiries coming through, but he gets low engagement and low exposure, relatively speaking. I mean, an average reel view could be 1,000. The average engagement could be 12 likes, could be 20 likes. Obviously, the more lifestyle posts, they're higher. But the problem content and this sort of content here, that's look on paper with vanity metrics, it doesn't look like it performs well, yet it drives inquiries. because he references the problems, but also he is so ruthless now, drawing it back to one key solution: progressive overload. Because the reason he does that as part of his process is it makes it very clear of what he excels at, what he's good at. So he knows that people in his audience, they train consistently, yet they really struggle with building muscle, or they don't know they're building muscle, which is brilliant because none of us do. When we're cut, we're worried we're burning too much. When we're bulking, we can't see it. There's always that fear of, am I just yo-yoing? Am I going to make net difference within this bulking and cutting phase? Or when I cut next, am I just going to go back to where I was? That's the pain. So he just keeps drawing it down to executing progressive overload. And then when he shows evidence of his clients and on himself, and we see the change, we see the contrast, we know for a fact that progressive overload is the reason. And if I'm not getting that, I know I'm not executing progressive overload correctly, because there's evidence to show that other people are. If I'm not getting one to be, I know I need to focus on this thing, and I also know this guy is very good at it, which gives me confidence that he has something that I need, he has something I don't know, and there is hope that I can achieve it, rather than I've done that before, it doesn't work, or I've tried that before and it's simply not for me, or that person's special. So his content now is dialed in on probably 1 or 2 hours maximum, and it keeps drawing back to the same point, and it demonstrates the fact that he has something that looks unique. He has something that looks different, which is impressive because, there's a lot of online coaches in this space, but he's giving the people watching a reason and something to look forward to, or just an awareness of what they need to fixate and what focus on and what he is good at. And then he shows proof it works. And when he shows proof, it's just results. He just talks about the element. He talks verbally out loud of the context, and he shares what they're like at the beginning of the process, what they're like now, and some of the biggest contrasts. So when people watch, he makes them problem aware. He makes them aware that that person's not special, that person's exactly like they are, and the only difference between them getting the result and the person watching is the person got the result, they took action. And he's not afraid of telling people where to go, in a good way. So just a lot of people will never take action. We are awful at doing something different. We like to maintain the status quo, humans. So it could just be inviting them and telling them to go to the form and where to go next. So this is, you don't have to do bullshit call to answers, but informing people of what the next stages would be so they have clarity and they have instruction, and not moving it towards inquiring to sign up, but inquiring to find out the results they could expect and to find out more details, obviously decreases the action threshold required, and when you shrink the step you get more throughput. So it was a culmination of building mainly his content around a process which sticks to a few topics, a few problems, ruthlessly keeps drawing back to the same key solution, the same key reason, the key thing he nails, progressive overload, showing the inside of his service so people saw process, they saw it packaged in a way that looked unique. That gave them faith that this could work for them versus what else they've tried. And then off the proof, labeling the reality, reading the reality back to them, giving more clarity and context of why they haven't got there, why this client did it and what's different, and then telling them what to do next. And it's just the culmination of that over time, improving the skill, which is obviously led to 10xing the income. And so much so that he's hired more people to help accommodate the demand, all with an audience or collective audience size of under 5,000, because I don't think Naomi's got more than one, and I don't think Jack's got more than one. So it's not about getting mass traffic and eyeballs and converting a small percentage. It's about creating content which resonates to such a degree with the right person that they come through. So just be careful where you value, or what you place your attention on as a metric of success, and what you value. Because if Adam still valued the vanity metrics and still optimized to get reach onto his profile, he will still be trying to copy and model what works, rather than build a structure which does the heavy lifting and feeds into each other. Because this is incoherent, and the most annoying part of this process is it takes up so much energy. because you're turning up, treading water every day, and it's not leading anywhere, it's not compounding, it's not feeding anything. Whereas ironically, this takes less mental bandwidth, less energy, you can be more optimized with it because you know what to post, you can batch it, and it actually does something, it compounds. So it's all about putting your effort and attention and your focus behind more of a system which does the heavy lifting rather than relying on you to turn up manually and work it out and just try and cross your fingers, wing on a prayer. But the irony is Adam would have never figured this out, and he would have never 10x his income, quit his job and got 2 coaches under him if he didn't fill out that free advice form in the first place. And that's why I put it out, to help you figure out what your bottleneck is, so you at least have the clarity on what you need to focus on, rather than wasting your time on an incoherent strategy which doesn't actually stack and compound. It's in the description below, fill it out, and I'll get back to you personally with what you need to do.